Put you in the middle so I can see you better. There we go. Okay. Good morning, everybody, and happy Saturday. This is Angie Atkinson with QueenBeing.com, and with me today I have the lovely and talented attorney and survivor, Jillian Tindall. You guys probably remember her from SPAN and or our morning chats. Jillian is not only the principal of her firm and an attorney at law, she has an extensive background litigating a wide range of domestic relations matters, in Clark County, Nevada, including but not limited to divorce, annulment, child custody and visitation, child support collections and defense, modification of child support, property valuation and distribution, debt division, alimony, domestic violence proceedings and protective orders, termination of parental rights, annulments, name changes, adoptions, legal separations, and the international recovery of children through the Hague Convention proceedings. Did I say that right, Jillian?
You did.
Thank you. She is experienced with all aspects of family law and is dedicated to giving her clients a strong voice in the legal arena with results-focused representation. She has also practiced in federal and state courts, including municipal and justice courts, and has experience with appellate work in the Nevada Supreme Court. She has written and lectured on domestic relations issues for multiple continuing legal education providers, and she's a contributor to my most recent book, and has received recognition, I just threw that in there, and has received recognition for her contributions for pro bono representation in Clark County. Ms. Tindall is experienced with high conflict litigation, aka dealing with narcissists in the court, y'all, as well as mediation and alternative dispute resolution options, whether a case is highly contested or is simple and uncontested. Her background experiences involved thousands of hours of work in crisis advocacy for victims of domestic violence, and she received a combined BA degree in psychology and sociology from the University of Oregon, where she graduated summa cum laude, I can't even talk today, with honors in psychology for her autism research with Oregon Health Sciences University, in combination with her thesis on autism, studying behavioral differences among gender groups. She has found herself drawn to the field of family law directly after receiving her BA degree and immediately continued postgraduate studies at University of Oregon School of Law, where she received her Juris Doctor in 1988. 98, my bad.
I was a young mom then.
Right. Ms. Tindall is admitted to the State Bar of Nevada, Kansas, and the Kansas Bar. She has remained active in academia and has graduate credits in marriage and family therapy studies, and has participated and volunteered in leading women's abuse recovery groups for the last several years, including SPAN, but I'm sure some in person as well. Prior to attending the University of Oregon, Ms. Tindall pursued studies in early childhood education. And before we begin our video today, I want to remind you that any and all information that is spoken by myself or Ms. Tindall today is not legal advice and is not to be used as legal advice and does not create an attorney-client relationship. Just a little disclaimer for you. And if you want to check out more about Jillian, you can learn about her at tindallaw.com. All right. Good morning, Jillian, and welcome.
Good morning, Angie. Thank you for having me.
I'm so happy you're here. You guys, I love the crap out of this woman. You don't even know. Okay.
I love this woman too. Just for the record.
Yes, indeed. Oh, thank you so much. Okay. Are you ready? We're going to do this. Okay. So as always, we have a list of prepared questions from our focus group, and we have a lightning round. And right after that, we're going to open up for Q&A for you guys. All right. So let's get right into it. Jillian, our first question of the day is, and again, remember these came from a focus group, everybody. If I could ask an expert anything, a legal expert anything, it would be, what are my rights? Oh, this is a great question. What are my rights after 13 years, but never married with separate finances?
Okay, so you're not married and it's 13 years. In your state, it may be possible to bring a palimony suit. And of course, I would direct that person to consult an attorney in their area. So you're going to want to look at the nature of the assets that you have. Okay, so firstly, let's talk about it. Do you have assets that are titled in both names, or did one or both parties keep them in separate names? How is your property titled? How was your property acquired? Do you have proof of maybe you sold a condo that was separate property before you got together and you put a chunk of that money down on the marital residence? So how are you contributing your financial what's the word? How did you contribute to the acquisition of this asset? Was it his separate stuff? If you titled it jointly, then you're going to have a legal means right there, whether it's in family court or whether you're going to bring an action to partition or maybe even quiet title. It just depends on how it's put together. If you can bring a palimony suit, you're going to want to assess for a minute how you guys held yourselves out to the public. So, for instance, do you have cards where he wrote, "To my lovely wife, happy anniversary"? Have you introduced yourselves as husband and wife? So how are you holding yourself out to the public? And for 13 years, that's a substantial amount of time. I would say that it would be very well worth your while to go consult with an attorney and find out what's available in your area, because that is a tremendous amount of time. Obviously, if you have children together, there may be child support. So check it out.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Next question. How long do I have to be with my spouse before I can receive alimony? And I guess what are the conditions as far as that would go? I don't know.
Okay, so I can tell you in Nevada, alimony is needs versus ability to pay. And usually the starting point is 5 years. So you've got to remember there's a couple of different types, well, there's many different types of alimony. There's alimony short term, and this would be pendente lite alimony during the course of the litigation. If there's a great disparity in income, there's a good chance that you're going to get that. Then there's post-divorce alimony. So let's break that down. You have regular alimony, which is just regular payments. You could get lump sum alimony if there's a lump sum available and they just want to pay it right off the bat. Be very careful with alimony because there is something called recapture, where the IRS looks at the nature of those payments and how much are being paid. And then there's rehabilitative alimony, which is designed to not make a spouse completely whole, but it's designed to help somebody get back on their feet. Let's say that they were a nurse and they were earning, like $36 an hour. And then all of a sudden they get married and they decide that they're going to stop doing that career. They're going to raise the children. The husband goes out. He maybe is in law school or medical school, wherever he is. Let's say that he improves the quality of his life and his earning capacity just exponentially. And she's at home watching, or it could be a guy. I don't want to be sexist. But if she put her life or he put his life on the back burner and this other person acquired skills that are letting them earn oodles of money, that's not fair. And so the out spouse can request rehabilitative alimony if it is a creature of their jurisdiction. The courts are going to look to the earning capacities of the parties, the length of the marriage, whether or not there is a disability involved. And it will take these factors into account. The best thing to do, like I would suggest, consult with an attorney in your area, find out what it is that the courts look at in their analysis, and go from there. Chances are the longer that you're together, the greater the disparity in marriage, the more likelihood that you will get alimony.
Excellent. Excellent. I love this. Thank you. You're doing so great. Okay.
Thank you.
I think these things are so important to so many people. And I don't think anybody has, well, some people do, but a lot of people don't have anyone to ask about these things. So this is really great stuff. Thank you, Jillian. Again. Okay. Moving right along. We have a lot to get through today, y'all. Okay. How much, this is an interesting question. And I want to just say what I think about it really quick, and then I'm going to let you say what you think about it, because you know better than me, but I can tell you about my experience. How much do divorces typically cost? I live in Missouri, and I actually managed to, I can't remember what the filing fee was, but I think I paid like $384 for my lawyer.
Awesome.
It was a long time ago, but we had nothing together except a child, and I basically kept everything that, I kept my child. So, but that was
most important.
Of course. Yeah, go ahead. Your thoughts.
Okay, so this depends upon how many issues you have to be litigated and whether or not you're divorcing a narcissist. Okay, a typical person who is logically thinking may realize that they don't want to give their money to attorneys. They might want to decide what their issues are and figure it out and do, whether it's in Nevada, a joint divorce or a complaint and an answer that admits all of the allegations and it's uncontested that way. They submit a joint decree or a stipulated decree of divorce. On the other hand, if you are going to litigate against a narcissist, there are a number of things that you can expect. He or she probably will hide assets. They are going to drag their feet. You are going to have to gather most of your paperwork together beforehand because don't expect cooperation with the discovery process. Mm-hmm. And this guy or girl is going to smear your name in the courts, out of the courts. They may not even show up if there's required mediation, and they're probably not even going to follow what their attorney says. So you could be in for a bumpy ride. It just depends. And it depends upon the type of narcissist that you're divorcing, but there could be substantial issues. If there are, you can expect to pay anywhere from $10,000 to $50,000 and beyond. So my suggestion would be gather all of your paperwork yourself, figure out what issues you have to litigate: custody, child support, alimony, division of property and debts, and then figure out what your big battles are going to be, and maybe consider letting the little ones go. Focus your energy and be prepared. I sent you a little guide that will help litigants or prospective litigants think about these things and kind of order their thoughts before they jump in. So, so review it. If you approve, let it be published to these guys.
Yeah. Yes, we're going to publish that to the platform where you signed up, and you'll be able, you'll get
perfect.
a copy of that. Yes. Absolutely.
Yes,
all right. Excellent. Okay. So I remember when I got divorced, it's been many years ago now, that I had to take a parenting class here in Missouri. Do all states require that?
I don't know about all states requiring it, but the best place to look is probably on the family court website in your area. In Nevada, it is required for divorcing parents. I've seen judges order it even for custodial parents. To me, it should be in both cases, and I would prefer everybody to do it. We have a online course called Children in the Middle. Oh. And you can do that in your spare time. I think it's about $45, and they will send you the certificate that you can print out or forward to your attorney. I had to go through these classes myself many years ago when I got divorced. And Angie, let me tell you, it was a nightmare because all they did was speak about how bad their family law attorneys were.
That must have been hard for you.
I sunk down in my seat and I said nothing.
Right. I'm not an attorney. I don't know what you're talking about. I bet.
Oh, God. And then there's another class for litigants that just can't seem to stay out of court. And maybe they're using that platform as an issue to air their differences. And it's called Cooperative Parenting After Divorce. I had to do that class with my ex. I really, really, really enjoyed it. I don't know that it resolved anything between us, but what it did do is it did give me just a whole litany of skills that I could use with difficult people. So then I took those skills and transferred them right over into my profession. And as you can imagine, sometimes I do deal with difficult attorneys, difficult judges, and sometimes difficult clients. The issues are very emotionally charged.
Certainly. Yeah, I can totally imagine. Yeah. And when I did this, again, this was like in 1998. I'm dating myself, but here it is. My ex would not take the class, and they still granted me the divorce. But then again, I had sole custody of that child after the divorce. So, which I thought was the only way it should be in this particular case, which I've talked about already.
Unfortunately, I agree. And Angie, it is possible in my state at least to request a waiver. So, and another thing that you can do if the narcissist refuses to take the class, because again, that is just perfectly stereotypical of the behavior that we see with these people,
Yeah.
then you also can tell the court, okay, so and so did not take their, we call it COPE, cooperative parenting. So if they don't take that class, you can say their visitation can be restricted until they submit proof to the court. Sometimes the courts will do that.
Excellent. Okay, so you guys heard that. Excellent. Okay, so here's another question for you from our group. If I bought a house with my ex and we didn't get married and only his name is in the mortgage papers, can I take him to civil court to get my share of the home? We lived together 3 years before we bought the house and filed taxes as married filing joint. Interesting.
Wow. That's a very difficult one because everything is in his name. So I would go back to my other question. And also, I wrote more about this for the guide for today's questions, the transcript.
Cool.
But you're going to have to look at how that property was acquired and whether or not you can prove any separate property contributions to that. So if you're putting maybe if you're paying the mortgage and you're writing it on the memo of your check or writing it on the memo of your online submission, that could be an indicia of at least intent to own. You're going to want to talk to this with your attorney. It's a very difficult question. I just recently had something like this, and because she didn't have any paperwork, unfortunately, she had to walk away from that claim. Which is sad. There is always the possibility of going to the district court if your family court is separate from the district court and filing an action for unjust enrichment and showing proof of your payments to this person. Also, maybe look at the closing papers. Was anybody in that title office that could testify? Was there a notary available that heard you talking about it? Because maybe, although it could be hearsay, maybe there's some sort of an exception that you could just use to get into court. Oftentimes, people will sense just the sheer injustice of it and will come to aid you. So you never know, but check it out. Check your paperwork. What evidence do you have? And then figure out, is this going to be worth litigating? Maybe the property's not worth that much. Maybe it took a dive with the recession. Maybe you have like $10,000 worth of equity in that property. Presumably, if you're in a community property state where the court would divide it half and half, then the interest is only going to be about $5,000. Walk away. It's not worth paying an attorney to litigate that for you. That could be a nice down payment somewhere else if you have other funds available and if you have credit to get a home. And there's other options like rent to own and things like that. So you're not dead in the water if you don't get it. Just figure out where you're at and talk to an attorney.
Yeah. And what about the possibility, and tell me, I mean, maybe I'm off base here, but sometimes I think in situations like this, I've seen where they would, like if one person's name is on the mortgage, her name might actually be on the title of the house if she signed the paperwork or was there while the paperwork was signed. If the people who set it up knew that they were buying the house together, even though it was only in his name. That's what, because when we bought our house, we strategically placed it in my husband's name, but my name is on the title of the house.
Good for you, Angie. Yeah, that's a very appropriate thing. Yeah, look at maybe the title's in his name, but maybe the mortgage payments are in both names. And so then we have to go back and analyze, okay, why is it that the title was put in his name? Mm-hmm. And if you're in a community property state, then you're going to want to look at, well, did my income go to make these payments after the property was titled? Because again, that could be another indicia of intent to own.
Mm-hmm. Agreed. Okay, very good. All right. Now somebody says, I want to ask about getting an annulment. I need to know if it is possible after a year of marriage, and I have proof of him not being truthful from the very beginning. What are my options?
In my jurisdiction, it absolutely is possible. I once obtained an annulment for somebody that had been married for years. It's going to depend on the circumstances and your state's grounds for an annulment. Here, obviously, if somebody is married to another person, if they are too close genetically, I think within the third degree of consanguinity, I think I said that right. So look at that. And in Nevada, it would be also like contractual grounds, like where there is a contract that could be considered void because it is inequitable. That also is a consideration. I have done a number of annulments, and with an annulment, you're going to have to be really careful, because if you have been married for any length of time beyond that, it could interfere with a claim for spousal support and things like that. So look at the length of the marriage. If it's just short term and you don't really have any combined assets together, consider an annulment. Look at your grounds. If you can, research the annulment statutes in your area. Find out what grounds are available. Now, if it's fraud, you're going to want to be really careful when you make your complaint, because fraud has to be pled with particularity. In Nevada, I can tell you that there is a higher standard of proof. It is clear and convincing evidence. So what evidence do you have that you were defrauded? And did you continue to reside with your spouse after learning of the fraud? In Nevada, these are all things that the courts are going to look at. But oftentimes it's very likely that they will grant an annulment if you fit into their statutory scheme.
Excellent. This is great. Okay.
It's fun.
Yes, it is. Okay. I'm so excited to get to give everybody these answers, right? Because I'm so excited. Thank you so much for doing this. I really appreciate it.
I'm so happy to be here.
I'm so happy to have you. Okay, we're moving on. All right. Okay, so the next question from our group: do I have the right to get a lawyer after a divorce has been settled, or to reopen it, or am I screwed?
You always have the right to get a lawyer, and you always usually have the right to go back, but you could potentially be screwed if you did not file your paperwork within the amount of time. Nevada has a couple of options. If you want to request a motion for reconsideration, that has to be done within 10 days after the notice of entry of order. If you want to move to set aside the judgment on the basis of fraud, or maybe there was a mistake, or maybe there's some other type of, we call that a 60B action. If there's any other type of, being kept away from the court through deceptive means, maybe you weren't told about the hearing, maybe you were not noticed appropriately, then you can move to set aside the decree. And then even if you don't, if you've blown all the deadlines and you don't want to file an appeal, etc., what you can do is look to see whether or not there were omitted assets from the decree. Your state probably has some sort of statutory scheme or authority in case law that would provide for the ability to go back and say, hey, what about his retirement? He left it out of the papers, and it's worth a couple $100,000. I want my share. So it's always possible. You've got to look at the number of means available for you, how long it's been since that has been entered, and what were the circumstances. Were you on medication? Were you under duress? These are important considerations to figure out. And again, I did answer this, I think, a little bit more in depth in the transcript.
Great, thank you. Okay. This one is important, this next question, and I hear this from so many different people. I've had clients go through it, and I've seen it happen where a grandparent has taken a child due to getting CPS involved and telling a bunch of lies and all kinds of craziness like this. The question is, how do you fight parental alienation with little or no money?
Okay, so this is a really good one, and I spent a little bit of time on this, answering it in the transcript.
Excellent.
So if you've been charged with parental alienation, either, when I say charged, I mean if these allegations are made against you, it depends upon whether or not the children have been taken away. If the children have been taken away, then my advice would be go to the court and request, they're usually the way they deal with this is if it's true parental alienation, they will take the child away from that person, at least for a period of time, so that the child can reintegrate with the other parent. If it's just alienating type behavior, then the courts usually will put some sort of behavioral order or specific orders in place as to how the parent that's alienating is supposed to act. If these are bogus charges, then what you're going to want to do is look to see, okay, if a charge has been made against me in family court that I have engaged in alienating behavior against the father of my child or mother, depending on whatever your thing is. What have I done to promote that relationship with the other parent? You know, do I have proof? Do I have text messages saying, "Oh yeah, I'm sorry that you can't make it to visitation today. Yes, of course that you can have the makeup visitation." What have you done to promote that child's relationship with the other parent? And what sort of evidence can you bring in? Do you have text messages? Do you have emails? Is there social media posts that you can bring in? Do you have pictures in your phone? Does anybody else have pictures? Do you have witnesses that saw you promoting the relationship? These things are going to be an important consideration. Get your evidence together. If you do not have an attorney and you can't afford one, go to the courts and do your best. You have got to handle this matter and move forward as best as you can. Gather your evidence and submit it to the judge. Ask for an evidentiary hearing. And CPS actions, I mean, oh boy, this is such a frequent thing, especially with narcissists, that they will do to pull on your strings and they want to be big and bad and ugly. And so they're going to involve the government to do this. And it's difficult, but you know, if it's CPS, work with them, bring them into your home, show them around, make sure they know that there's food in the cupboards, have them talk with the teachers, show them the children's report cards. I mean, it's, you know, it's really ugly and scary when you go through it, but, you know, it can be dealt with. By and large, most people that are with narcissists are empaths. So, of course, they're not going to neglect their children. And when you dig into it, you're probably going to find that you have a lot of evidence to supply.
Yeah, it's true. And I some people know this, but this actually happened to me from my own parent, um, who is my first one, and narcissist. And they called, and the people showed up at my house, and we let them in the house, and we showed them around, and they looked in the kids' bedrooms, they looked in the drawers, they looked in the cabinets and the, you know, the fridge, and they talked to our kids, and they were like, well, this is obviously a revenge call. We'll see you later. And they closed the case. So if I felt like, you know, knowing your rights is important. You don't have to let them in your house, at least not in Missouri. But if you don't, they can get a court order. And I think, is that right?
They definitely could. And it's going to look really bad if you don't. I know in Nevada it would. It depends again upon your state and your particular circumstances. I can tell you this happened to me when I was going through law school. I asked my ex for child support, and I believe it was his current spouse that called the police and said that I had a live-in lover and that my children were being abused. Now, mind you, I had a tiny 2-bedroom apartment. I was sleeping on the floor in the living room. I had a little like papasan, which was a wicker work love seat, and I would take the cushion off of it. It was about 4 feet exactly. I'm short, just like you. Dynamite comes in small packages.
Yes.
That's where I was sleeping on the floor, and the police knocked at my door at 1 a.m, and I was so mad. I grabbed that officer and I pulled him in my apartment. I threw on the lights and I said, okay, I want you to search my house and look for this live-in lover. And I got my daughter up. She was 15. And I said, honey, I said, the police are here. They say that you're being abused, and they're here. And if you don't like anything about me, you can tell them, and I can't do anything about it. So if you're not happy with anything, you need to tell them right now, because they're here to protect you. And she goes, can I go back to bed now?
I love it. Yeah.
They left, but I did show them everything that was in my covers. And then I rolled back the blankets that were on my little bed and I showed them my teddy bear and I that I was sleeping with. And I said, there's your live-in lover. And
I
I
love
said,
it.
oh, by the way, if you know of anybody that wants to fill the position, please let them know because I don't get child support and I sure could use some help with these kids.
That's
And
amazing.
I could hear them walking on the sidewalk. They were laughing as they were walking away.
Oh my gosh. How in the hell did, excuse me for saying it this way, but why would they show up at 1 a.m? I've
Because
never,
it was an emergency. And
oh,
before they left, I showed them an envelope that the first check that my ex had sent me, I never cashed it, was for $200. And the back of the envelope said, to the bitch. And I thought to myself, thank you very much. I appreciate that. Yes, it's
yeah,
taken me a long time to get this way. I don't intend to change.
good for you. Wow, that's outrageous. That's a bad revenge story, but I'm glad you rocked it because see,
It
that's,
happened.
yes, that's amazing. Wow. I mean, go girl. I knew I liked you. Oh my gosh. Well, for me, that was the thing that finally caused me to go no contact with my original
Yeah,
narcissist.
I'm so sorry about that.
Nah, it's good. My
Water
life is
under the
better now, you
bridge.
know?
Exactly.
Mhm. Yep, you just gotta keep going. Okay, here we go. Next question. How much does a typical custody battle cost? I don't know if that's even an answerable question, but go ahead.
It is. It's, you're going to want to look at your issues. Okay. It's the same thing as the other question. Um, are there professionals involved? Is there a child custody evaluation? Do we need reunification services? What types of issues are being involved? Is it just a garden variety custody case? Or are you going to have, like multiple psychological evaluations and things like that? One of the options that you do have available, at least in Nevada, is to request a child interview. Now, I hate to have children get involved, but sometimes it's necessary. Sometimes somebody makes an allegation of, let's say, parental alienation, or maybe they don't like that the other spouse has a new love interest that's in the home and they're making allegations that that person's abusing the kids or whatever. Sometimes it's necessary for the children to be interviewed, and it also could provide them a forum, at least to speak their minds so that they are empowered. So you can look at it a number of ways, but generally the number of issues is what's going to increase your costs.
Yep.
So figure out what those issues are, and it could be anywhere from, a couple thousand if it settles at the first hearing to tens of thousands later on.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
It is unfortunate. Yeah. Crazy. Oh, this is a great question, this next one. Wow. And I'm really glad this is being asked because we have a lot of, not a lot, but we have a good amount of men in our span group and our morning chat. In fact, my chat.
Yay, go man.
Go men. Okay. Especially non-narcissists. Okay.
That's right.
All right. So this question is it true that mom gets custody over the father typically? And what types of rights do court systems have in place for fathers?
Okay, so now we're seeing a trend towards joint physical custody. And I don't know what it is in each particular state, but I can tell you in Nevada that it was common when I started practicing close to 18 years ago for women to get primary physical custody. But now it's not. And you're going to want to look to the statutes of your state. Now we have statutes in place that really speak to this. I think what they are referring to is what's called the tender years doctrine. And basically what that was just the legal construct that children should be with the mothers during their tender years. And that would be, I would say prior to entry in compulsory education. So before kindergarten, before first grade. But we are seeing a move away from that. So what rights you have, you could have statutory rights, but you're going to want to look at what the parties have been doing by way of raising these children. Have you been the stay-at-home dad? Is there some sort of evidence that you can put on as to what your extent with caring for the kids are? Do you sign them out of school? Are there sign-up sheets that you can show? How about the other person's work hours? Can you request a copy of their work schedule? What is it that you have done on a day-to-day basis? And then you're going to want to look at what's best for the children. Is a joint custody worthwhile? Is the other person capable of parenting the kids? If they're a narcissist, yeah, that's a question that you're going to have to answer in your particular case. But what is best for the children? What are their school schedules? Who is doing all the work? Who is running them to soccer practice? Who is making the breakfast and preparing their lunches? Who makes dinner? Who bathes these kids or directs them to take a bath if they're older? Who's doing the homework? Who is going to the parent-teacher conferences? Who goes to the school when they get sick and have to be picked up? Or if they get into trouble, who's attending those parent-teacher conferences? Who is doing the work? And your answer lies right there.
Mm-hmm. And I think, and I hope this one particular member of our group, who I'm not going to mention because I'm not trying to call him out, but there's one particular member of our group I hope is listening, and he is in a situation where he's been the primary parent. Although the mother has lived there, he's been taking care of his daughter since she was born. He is clearly her preferred parent, and part of the reason he's staying is because he's afraid if she goes, she will have the right to take the child. And I think that you just proved that.
No matter what your sex is, I mean, my heart is for the children, and in that type of a situation, that child is bonded with the father. So, in addition to having great big prayers for this person, definitely, I just hope that they are able to gather their evidence and go to the courts and show the courts what is in the best interest of this child. If it sounds like a stay-at-home dad type of situation, just look at what evidence you have and who can you put on as witnesses. Are there play dates? Are there children's mothers? Do you take the child to the library regularly, maybe for book time? There's all kinds of evidence that you can think of. Think about your life on a day-to-day basis, what pictures and things you have, and then look to the other person's work schedule. If it's impracticable for this other parent to have joint physical custody, then the court is going to take that into account. All is not lost simply because there's a trend towards joint physical parenting.
Yeah, yeah. And in this, and well, we don't need to go on about that, but anyway, we'll talk. Okay. We're going to keep going because like I said, okay. Next up, this is another interesting question. How do you prove, did you already answer this? How do you prove parental alienation if the judge won't speak to the children? Can you prove it?
It depends. It can be proven. Oftentimes it does take a psychologist because the judge isn't just going to take your word for it. They're not going to feel qualified to make that diagnosis. But going underneath that, it may be possible to show behavior. If you can show behavior that's affecting the child, that is what's going to be your key to the judge ruling in your direction, however that may be. And you're going to want to look, is it true parental alienation? Because with a true syndrome, what typically you're going to see is that child doesn't want a relationship with the other parent anymore as a result of being indoctrinated that, mommy or daddy is bad. Or on the other hand, do you have parental alienating behavior? Or maybe the other parent just slips up every once in a while and says something that they ought not to. And it happens to all of us. I mean, it's true. Learning how to co-parent is an acquired skill. And it was one that I had to learn. Believe me, my child would say things to me and I would just want to say, yeah, well, blah, 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 blah. But I'm not going to air my differences and use that child as a therapist. What I'm going to say is, honey, depending upon the situation, this sounds like a conversation that you need to be having with your father. Please try that. If it doesn't work, then you can come back to me and we can discuss it. Or, darling, I'm really sorry that you had to hear that.
Yeah. Good stuff. Yeah. Okay, next up. People tell me to document things all the time when speaking about custody. What sorts of things should I document, and why is this important?
Document everything.
Yes.
So this is what you're going to want to do. And I tell my clients, get a spiral bound notebook and make a date entry and describe what's happening. Did the other parent show up late for a visitation exchange? Did the other parent notice vacation? If they're a narcissist, one of the things that they're going to do, maybe in your case, is notice parenting time and try to tack on vacation time onto regular visitation days. So let's say that they are week to week, and this parent gets a week of custody, and then they notice vacation for another week. So now they've got 2 straight weeks in a row. Is that allowable in your jurisdiction? Because we call that tacking. And oftentimes it's not. I've known people to tack visitation days onto noticed vacation days to try to get like a whole block of time, like maybe a month. And I've seen it done during, like the month of December, where they're not even going to see their child at Christmas. And it's just all a ruse to try and divest the other parent of their parenting time with the kids. So document that. Are they calling at inappropriate hours? Are they doing things like calling day to day when there's, like homework time, or they know that the other person's going to be really, truly busy? I'm sorry. I've got a pop-up here that I need to close on my computer. There we go.
No worries.
Yeah. So what's going on that needs to be documented? Is there a school conference that the other parent didn't show up? Maybe it's a really, really important thing. Maybe your child has some kind of a challenge and there's an individualized education program happening and they didn't show up to the IEP meeting. Write it down, keep it and log it. And if you see a continuing pattern of conduct that is worth bothering the courts with, because believe me, you've got to choose your battles, but write it down, especially extra parenting time. Maybe the other parent can't take their parenting time and it's happening more and more and more. In Nevada, that could be the basis for a change of custody. So, best advice, write it down, document it. Also, beginning litigation, there is a chronological history that I always have my clients do. And it's basically starting when you met in the past, moving forward, time moves in one way, only write it down in chronological order, but sketch out what happened. What are the big social and economic events? Did somebody go to jail? Did somebody quit a job to stay home and raise the kids? Was there a specific act of domestic violence? Were there major purchases made? Did somebody get fired for maybe, dishonesty or doing drugs on the job? Whatever it is, write it down, past to present, have that ready to provide to your attorney, because chances are, if your attorney is going to file any kind of a motion, they're going to want to do some sort of recitation of the history between the parties.
Yeah, excellent. Thank you so much. Okay, this next question is interesting. It never occurred to me. What a great question. Okay, this person says, how could I get my ex to support my daughter with a disability financially for life?
Okay, so this is possible. In Nevada, it has to be done with a motion prior to that child attaining the age of majority. So, and the courts probably are going to look at whether or not you're getting Social Security for that child. That could affect any award of support. So, what you're going to want to do, depending upon the disability, is find out, can you document this? Do you have a doctor or a psychiatrist or somebody that can show that this disability is a lifelong disability? And there might be periodic reviews in the court, but get your evidence together. Hopefully the child hasn't attained the age of majority, and apply to the child support courts. You don't, in Nevada, necessarily have to go through family court. You can supply this information to the district attorney. However, this is a substantial thing that I wouldn't mess around with. I would hire a family law attorney to proceed with making this request. And I would do it in family court, because the judge ultimately in Nevada is going to have a lot more ability to make lasting rulings. Child support court is great for people that lack resources, or just simple matters of asking them to investigate the other parent's income and attaining award of child support, maybe back support. But this issue is a long-lasting issue, and if in Nevada, if you litigate it in child support court and there's an objection, it's going to get kicked up to the family law judge anyway to handle that hearing. So what you're going to want to do again is gather your evidence together and then think about what is your need. You know, how does this disability affect what is going on financially? If it's a child with autism, for instance, do you have therapists coming into the home to do home training for the child? What expenses are involved? Maybe you're spending oodles of money in gas because you take this child to occupational therapy. So what's happening that's affecting your finances? Because that too is going to provide another layer of need that the court can assess to make findings on to rule in your favor.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Thank you. These are great answers, Jillian. I so appreciate the thoroughness and everything. Thank you. Thank you.
You can tell I'm pretty type A.
I love it. It's perfect. All right. Recording conversations. This is the next question. Is legal in this person's state? They say only one person needs to know, or only one party. Are recordings of children admissible in court?
It depends upon how your judges view it. Some judges I have seen get incensed when they see that children are being recorded, but other times the courts will order it. So is it permissible in your jurisdiction for the children to be recorded? What are the circumstances underneath that? Do we have a parent that's coaching and we're trying to show that this other parent is coaching the child? Is this other parent trying to use the child maybe as a flying monkey to figure out what is happening and reporting what's going on in the home so that the other parent can maybe gain some kind of a tactical advantage in court? Why is this child being involved? It could be necessary to have the recordings, but, a lot of the judges here would look upon that very negatively.
Yep, so I can see that. Yeah. Now, what if, let's say, I know one of our morning people has been ordered to do FaceTime between her toddler daughter and her father every day, the toddler's father she's going through a divorce with. If she were to record I don't even know if you can record a FaceTime session. I know you can record, like screen record anything if you're on the right device. But would something like that, like if he was saying insults to the mother and she happened to record the next session because he'd insulted her previously or something, would anything like that be admissible?
It could be, and I would talk to your attorney. Different, and it can vary from state to state and from judge to judge. Some judges absolutely hate that. Some judges are okay with that, and maybe it gets recorded accidentally. I mean, kids hit all kinds of buttons nowadays.
True that.
You have that, and he's sitting there and he's saying very negative things. Look at it. What is the negative thing that is being said? Are they saying that, mommy always does this or mommy always does that, and it's really, really bad? Talk to your attorney, find out, because that's another piece of evidence in your favor showing that this other parent is just not capable of putting aside their feelings and they're going to involve the children. They can't focus on the child's needs. They're inappropriately foisting their issues upon the child, and that's wrong.
Yeah, agreed. And I don't know if this is not exactly the same thing, but regarding the child custody, when I was going through my divorce, I had a very specific reason that I didn't want my ex to be alone with my child. It was real messed up. But anyway, my ex signed off. Yeah, he signed off on it because I don't need to talk about that, but he signed off on it because I handled that stuff. And
good for you, Angie.
And the judge was like this: why is this guy signing off on this? And what is the reason that you're taking sole custody? And I told my attorney, and my attorney, and anyway, the judge asked me to write a letter for the file, which I did, and it was granted. So again, this was well, 1998. So it's been a minute, and it's in Missouri. So, but I'm just saying that was something that happened in my case that was kind of in my mind related somehow to that answer. Anyway, back
Yes,
on track.
absolutely. You know, you can write a declaration or an affidavit to the judge. Be careful how you write it. Be very careful. I would get legal advice before doing that because it is something that you're putting into the legal record. It sounds like what your judge requested years ago was just something that he could put in his confidential file, and it was handled in the state of Missouri. So, I mean, that's fine. That's what happens. And, you know, you don't necessarily have to have a judge request it from you before you do it.
Right.
I just wrote something. A client is obtaining a divorce by default, and our jurisdiction is so specific and so keyed into the other parent's rights not being trampled on that oftentimes they will not grant a decree of divorce unless there is some type of visitation. So I wrote an affidavit for the client explaining why we were requesting what we were requesting, and hopefully that will work. It just depends. And I always advise my clients, look, you know, we don't know what's going to happen, and there's no guarantees in family law. There certainly is not. But let's try this.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome. Thank you. All right. Next up. If a signed final order valid, is a signed final order valid if it was never given to the opposing party before submission to the judge?
It's valid, but it could be set aside. So I think that question really is, do I have to follow this order, and can it be set aside? If it's in black and white with the file stamp and the judge's signature, I would heed that order, and I would do everything that the order says, but I would move to set it aside. Again, referring back to the other question, there's certain periods of time that you have in order to dispute an order with the court. If you're outside of that time limit, all is not lost. You could bring a motion to modify that order depending upon your statutory authority in your state. Usually it's almost always going to be best interest. So, hey, you know, did they get a default order that says they have primary physical custody and you get every other weekend visitation? That doesn't sound fair. So bring the motion and explain to the court why it is. Maybe you've been the primary caretaker, you know, and it's not fair. Maybe the children are truly really going to be affected by this order because they're used to mommy getting them up and brushing their hair and taking them to court. Or maybe, you know, in the case of a father, maybe he's been involved and there's a really strong bond between him and the children, and the mom just, you know, for whatever reason hasn't been in that picture. So what is going on in that situation? And, you know, how it is that this order was entered. Did you not know of the proceedings? Did somebody play hanky-panky with service of process and, you know, and that affidavit of service is a lie? Bring it on and explain to why it is what you think it is and how it's affecting the kids or your life, and litigate that.
Yeah. Thank you. All right. We have 1, 2, 3 more questions, and then we're going to do our lightning round, and then we're going to open up for Q&A, everybody. All right. Next up, if I'm required to pay child support, is it backdated to the time the separation occurred, or does it typically start as soon as the order is put in place? And if I start paying child support before the judge orders it, what's the best way to keep track of payments?
Okay, so I love this question. And I think if you do some research, you're going to find that it varies from state to state. In Nevada, we don't have a statute of limitations for getting child support if an order has been issued. However, in our jurisdiction, it's NRS 125B.030. What that says is that if there is no order entered for the prior 4 years, that the parent can go back and get child support under certain circumstances. So was there an agreement to pay? Can you show that agreement? If you have been making payments, do you have proof of those payments? And I would pay them make sure that there's a paper trail. So if it's a check, write in the memo of the check specifically what it is for. Yes, you can begin to pay in advance, but you're going to want to put child support on that check, because how does the judge know? Maybe that's a gift, you know, and if you give certain monies of gift, like for their birthday, if it's $20, write it on the memo, birthday gift. If it's not, put child support on there. Yep. Go to the district attorney. If you're a payor and you want to make sure that you are getting the proof of paying the payee, you might want to consider going to the district attorney or whatever governmental agency handles the collection and disbursement of child support in your area and finding out what that process is. Yes, that could mean opening up a case. And yes, maybe in certain circumstances that could mean your pay getting garnished. But look, if you have to pay, might as well get proof and might as well comply right off the bat. Don't let a foothold begin for back child support to be accruing, because there's all kinds of statutory penalties and interest. In a lot of cases, the other person can get attorney's fees if you're not paying. It's a really nasty situation that should be avoided at all costs.
Absolutely.
Consult an attorney.
Thank you. All right. Next up, this one's a big one too. Do they get half of your 401k in a divorce?
Oh, that's a wonderful question. So, all right, let's break it down. Do you live in a state where there's equitable distribution, meaning not community property? So the court is going to look at, the court is going to try to be more equity oriented. So if one parent's building up a 401k and you're in an equitable distribution state, what are the factors behind that? Was it pretty much equal, all things being equal? The other parent, maybe they didn't get a retirement asset, but they got these other fringe benefits. What happened between the parties? If you're in a community property state, chances are they are going to divide that 401k in half. But you've got to look at the length of time that the parties have been married and during what portion of the marriage were contributions made into that retirement asset. Was it a retirement asset that started prior to the marriage and there were separate property contributions? If so, then the court is probably going to divide that retirement asset by the amount of months that were put into that asset during the course of the marriage. So figure out what your statutory and case law scheme is for that. Talk to the plan administrator, find out when it is that the payments were being made into this plan. If it's a 401k, those are more easily divided than some other type of deferred compensation plan. Maybe there's a pension or something that needs to be divided, and it gets even more sticky when you get into military retirements, because then you have issues of survivor benefits and maybe thrift savings plans that are acquired during the course of the marriage. So what type of state are you in? Equitable distribution or community property? How long has a retirement asset been in existence? What kind of an asset is it? And were there any separate property contributions? And you're going to want to figure out when does your state divide, when do they sever the marital community? So don't take this as legal advice, but when I last checked, I think California, it severs when you file for the divorce. In Nevada, typically that is either with the entry of the decree or up until the day of trial. Usually the judge will set a defined date, because sometimes people play games when decrees are being entered and they start adding stuff or taking stuff out. It can take a while, especially if you have two attorneys and a whole bunch of assets. Even sometimes they're not playing games, they're just trying to figure out, is there additional information that we didn't quite get, and now we need more information. And so it could be a few more months, and if substantial contributions are made to that asset over time, that could be an issue. So get a specific date as to when the division is going to happen, and figure out what happens in your particular state. When is the marital estate severed?
Good stuff.
Important stuff.
Yeah. All right. See, I'm learning all kinds of new stuff today. All right. What are the odds? This is the final question before we go to the lightning round. What are the odds of proving parental alienation, and what are the possible repercussions for alienating a parent?
Oh my goodness. Okay, so we've spoken a lot about this, but the chances depend upon what actually is happening. Also the judge. Does the judge believe in parental alienation? Some don't. So what's happening? Do we have parental alienating behavior where the child really isn't alienated, but there's nasty things happening where one parent is coaching the child and involving them inappropriately, maybe placing that child in a loyalty bind? That is a huge no-no, and the courts will take steps to correct that because that is not in the best interest of a child.
Great.
Or has alienation truly happened? Does that child now not want to have anything to do with the other parent? And why it is that this is going on? And do you have proof? Is there a professional that's accepted by your courts, usually in our courts is a PhD or higher, that can say, yes, parental alienation syndrome is an issue here, and now we need to deal with it. Typically, what I have seen, and it could depend upon whatever recommendations the person diagnosing this is making, because oftentimes the court will ask for recommendations because these family law judges know that they're not therapists. By and large, we have a really, really good family law bench, especially in Nevada. These judges know what's appropriate, and they know what they don't know. They're a really savvy bunch over here. I love our judges. I really do. But they will look to the professional involved to say, okay, so there's alienation. So how are we going to deal with this? Most of the time, what I see is they will stop contact with the other parent, at least for a period of time, so that the out parent can reestablish their relationship with the child. And really, when you think about it, I mean, narcissist or not, it depends upon the level of narcissism and what's going on. But most of the time, you're going to want somebody else to step in your shoes. God forbid, if there should be an early demise, are there family members that child can go to? How important is it for that relationship to be kept? I know, and I won't say which one of my children, but at least with one of my children, the situation was that it was far more better for me to just die and for that child to be a ward of the state than for that child to know or be with that other parent. That other parent was so bad and so dangerous. And that is a position that I'm absolutely against. But you know what? It does happen. It really does happen. Yeah. So figure out what it is and where you are, and then proceed accordingly.
Excellent answer. Thank you. All right. Now we're going to lighten the mood for a minute with our lightning round. It is just funny, silly questions, not serious. So let's do it. Ready?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. What's something you could eat for a week straight?
Something that I could eat for a week straight? See's candy.
Okay.
And sushi.
Nice. All right. Would you rather wake up to an air horn blowing in your ear every day, or, I think I already know your answer to this, wake up and run 4 miles every day?
Well, I would like to wake up and run 4 miles, but the reality of it is, although I own my home, it's not in the best area. So that would be dangerous. I would have to drive down to the park and walk, which I absolutely love, and I probably will do later on today. But most of the time, I like to wake up and reach over and feel my dog next to me.
I can dig it. All right. Do you think Jimmy Kimmel is funny or not?
I don't watch a whole lot of late night TV, but from what I've seen of him, I do.
Yeah,
I do think he's funny.
Me too. Dark chocolate or milk chocolate?
Dark.
It's healthier anyway, right?
Yes.
Yes. Say something cool. I don't even know what this one is. It's random. But anything cool you have to say right now?
What goes around comes around.
Perfect. Ain't that the truth? All right.
Especially if they're narcissists because they hoover.
Indeed. They suck it right in. All right. Polka dots or stripes?
I think polka dots today. Definitely.
Nice. Yeah. Okay. Would you go to a movie by yourself or not?
Of course I would. I absolutely would. In fact, last night I went to a high school football game by myself, even though my son has long since graduated and gone on to university. Yes, he's at the University of Kansas. Oh, go Wildcats. Absolutely.
If you ever come down this way, I live like 4 hours from there.
I am going to come. Yes.
Just we're having coffee. Yes.
Yes,
dinner,
absolutely.
Okay. Well, yeah. Okay. Good. All right. Anyway, back to the thing. Okay. What is a country that you would be okay with never visiting in your life?
Oh, boy. Siberia?
Good one. Good one. Would you rather eat some smoky, I don't even know this word, nachi, or some delish fish?
Gefilte fish would be great. I had some, it was absolutely, and I don't even know if I said it right, so I'm sorry if I'm offending the Jewish community right now. Actually, I do think that I must have Jewish blood in me because Jewish food, absolutely, I just love it.
I'm a quarter Jewish. How you doing?
Yay!
Yes. All right. And you should get your DNA tested. That's how I found out exactly how
Oh, I
much.
did. I did.
Did
I will
you?
have you know, I'm very proud to say that I'm 5.5% Black.
Nice.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Um, I don't have any. Anyway. Okay, we'll talk about that later. Okay. If wait a minute, if you were given the opportunity to fly into space, given today's technology, would you take it?
No.
I feel you. It's a little scary. Um,
Feet in the ground.
right. Right. Exactly. If you were, wait a minute, for a journal, do you prefer paper or a computer?
As an attorney, I would prefer a computer because my clients can send me their information and it's so much easier for me to edit and adapt to emotion. But personally, if you're journaling what your thoughts and feelings are, there is something just magical about putting hand to paper, writing out your feelings. Plus, you can doodle, you can put stickers on there. Believe me, I have lots of journals with stickers and doodling, in different colors,
Yeah.
whatever, so that's me.
On a personal, me too. I'm same on the personal
Absolutely.
level. Yeah. Yeah. All right. This is an interesting question considering what you said earlier, just at the beginning of this session, this little part of the interview. Is human life more valuable than the life of a dog?
You know, I probably would have to say yes, although I wouldn't want to admit it.
Right.
But, of course, yeah, I honestly, I believe in God. I believe that He put us here on earth to have dominion over the animals.
Hmm.
But, gosh, and if it came down between my dog and the narcissist,
Via heart. I feel you. I feel you. Oh, that's so funny. Um, but I totally get it. I get it. My son asks me sometimes, Mom, what if you had to save me or the cat? I'm like, obviously I would save you. Come on. And then he's like, well, I would save the cat. And I'm like, you're silly, but it,
he's just pulling your strings.
yeah, he is. He is. He's silly, but he means it all in well. Yeah. He said, I'd want you to save the cat. I'm like, I'm not going to save a cat who's going to live for 5 more years or whatever over my child.
Save the cat.
Right. It's so silly. Anyway. Okay. Most embarrassing store you might be seen shopping at. Last one.
Oh man, most embarrassing store. Guys, I love Walmart. I love the dollar store. I absolutely love the dollar store.
Yes.
I'm all about thrift, and I even have gone to the Goodwill. It's like a hunt. Some people go fishing. You call it Goodwill hunting.
Nice.
So, what store would I be embarrassed? Maybe the adult store.
Oh, there you go. There you go.
Yeah, probably the adult store.
Yeah.
Although there's nothing wrong with going to the adult store, but I'm single, so I never go to the adult store, which is sad. Maybe I should think on that.
Could be fun, but you don't want to date anybody you met there. I'm just saying.
No. He could be a narcissist.
Yeah, or a weirdo. Anyway, either way, or both, whatever. Okay, but really though, just buy that stuff online. All right.
Yeah, exactly.
Moving right along. Okay, so we're going to open up for questions right now. I'm going to say hello to a few people here. We have our lovely and amazing Malta, who is
Malta.
Yay, we love Malta, don't we?
Yes.
All right. And we have Nargis, Literal Best, Renee Goodell, Jamie V, and Nargis again. Oh, yeah. Okay, wait a minute. Candy Cook is in the house. And we have Joe Ham today. Hello, Joe Ham. Welcome. Nargis. And wait, I already said her. Oh, I can't remember GS. Wait a minute. Gmail, Angie. How can I stop the? Okay, here we go. She meant good morning. Question. for you, Jillian. How can I stop the narc legally? Oh, this is a great question. I don't even know if you can, but here it comes. How can I stop the narc legally from making false abuse charges and calling CPS?
You know, I don't know that there is any way that you can, but if he has done this if he or she has done this a number of times, then you're going to want to look at what resources are available to you in your area. Can you make a charge of malicious prosecution? You know, and truly, if you're doing everything right, it's a major hassle. And yeah, it makes your heart hurt and it could wake you up in the middle of the night with, just being scared and things of that nature. But really, if it's going to happen, let it happen, cooperate them, get a number of unsubstantiation letters. The judge is going to see right through it. And it's creating drama for the children, is what it's doing. So you're going to want to bring that up to the family court judge, and let the judge know, hey, look, he so and so made this report, this report, this report, this report. This is affecting the children. I have the state coming into my home multiple times. It upsets the kids. It's putting the kids in a crazy situation where they're having to defend their mother for non-existent things that are going on, and it's disrupting our home. This is a real disruption to our home. It needs to stop, Your Honor. I'm asking for a gag order that he can't make these false allegations anymore, because bottom line, it's not in our children's best interest. Yeah. And he needs to get a wife.
Indeed. Yes. All right. Scott Johnson is here. Hey, Scott. He says, hi, I didn't even know you were even live on Saturday. How's Coffee and the Cat? The coffee cup is freaking empty, but it's delicious when I fill it up again. The cat
Absolutely.
is, right?
I'm missing my Angie cup. It's at work. Oh. I need to get another one, so I have one for home.
We'll get that hooked up. We'll get that hooked up. Yeah. Yeah. Now, the cat is locked out of the office because otherwise he'd be in here terrorizing all the things. He's in that stage right now. He's like a toddler cat.
My favorite episode was the live one where the cat did something inappropriately and caused a minor problem.
It was a problem. He pooped on me. Yes, it was terrible. Okay. Live film. Okay. Live streaming. Yeah, that was fabulous. You guys might remember that. Okay. And Scott, I'm not normally live on Saturdays. Today is a special day because it's our live summit week. So Summit. Okay. All right. So let's see here. Renee says hello to Jillian. I'm excited to be here, she says. Renee. And Nargis is, okay, wait a minute. Melina is here. Okay, let me just take a moment to pause about Melina. Right. Melina has been instrumental in all of this with helping us get it all put together.
Thank you.
Yes. Thank you, Melina. We love you. All right. And she says good morning to everyone. Elaine Miranda's in the house. Hello, Elaine. Bonnie here. She says, yay. Hi, Jillian.
Hi, Bonnie. And Elaine.
Yes. And Jamie, we say hello to her. We love her. And let's see. Nargis says, oh yeah, thank you, Nargis. All right. Malta says, good morning to everybody. Renee, hold on, we're getting to the questions. Isaac is in the house. Hey, Isaac, welcome back. Elaine Miranda says, can I ask you something? Yes, of course you can, Elaine. Oh, this one might be a question for me. Is the sociopath or a narcissist really happy with their life? And the answer is, unfortunately for them, no. And that's why it is. That's why they have to get supply elsewhere. They're kind of
why they do what they do.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, hollow selves. They have to fill supply. Yes, yes. And you ever notice how they take on the sort of personality traits of the people they're around? They might tell the same jokes as their friend, or
it's disgusting.
It's disgusting.
So disgusting.
Agreed. Agreed. All right. Shell Soul in the house. Good morning. And Melina says good morning. Okay. I'm just trying to read the stuff that we have. Okay. And everybody loves Jillian. We love her too. And
I love you guys. You guys are an important part of my morning. Most every morning I'm on, and because I'm usually one of the first ones to pop up, but I am usually putting on makeup and preparing for my day mentally, and I get a charge from everybody. Yeah, it's just wonderful. Angie, thank you so much for the morning sessions. They truly help me.
I'm so glad to hear that. It means a lot to me. I hope you know. It really does. Okay, let's see here. Oh, Malta, thank you for putting Jillian's link in the chat. Malta is such an amazing chat admin. I can't even say enough good things about him. Melina, remind me, we're going to send Malta a little something for all he does for us. Okay.
Yes.
Yes. SD says, hello, Melina. Enjoyed listening to you yesterday. Yeah, Melina was great, wasn't she? And Malta said, oh, wait. Okay, we're moving on. Blah, blah, blah. Let's see. I'm not saying blah, blah, blah. I'm just keeping moving. Okay. Melita. I called her Melita. I've known her for 100 years. Okay. Melina also says, because Malta is awesome. It's true. Oh, Janelle Hopper is here. Hello, my love. How you doing, Janelle? She says, hi, Melina. Gonna need to go back and watch your organization tips. Good stuff, Janelle. Okay. Okay, trying the computer, blah, blah, blah. Okay. Okay, Bam. Uh-oh. How did she? I thought we had, thank you. Thank you, Malta. Wow. Okay. What charges can I file? Oh, here's a question for you. I think we already talked about this. Can she file charges for filing false charges? Is that a thing?
Yeah, she could talk to the DA or the appropriate governmental official. You might start even by just calling the non-emergency and asking the non-emergency police, where do I go to submit a charge for the initiation of a false report? You know, there's probably a lot of statutory things in your area that say, you know, what the penalties are. It could even be a misdemeanor or a felony, depending upon, you know, the number of times they do it and the severity, because they're tying up community resources from what otherwise could go to protect the real victims.
That's exactly what I think. I think, you know, if you think about the kids in the world who are like being neglected and abused for real, and all these people are wasting the court's time, the social workers' time, and they're already overbooked as it is, frustrates me. Okay.
Yes, very much.
Okay. Let's see. All right. And she wants to know, does she need an attorney for this? Because the narcissist has done it to her 2 times, and she wants to make sure she protects herself and her child. Do you think that she needs probably an attorney? I would think so, maybe.
It would be a good idea if she can afford one. And 2, you know, it depends upon the nature of the 2 is not really enough, in my opinion. Although, you know, I'm on her side totally, and I've been on the receiving end of it a couple of times. So I've walked in those shoes, at least in my shoes. I don't know exactly her shoes. It's a major hassle, and it's horrible waking up in the middle of the night going, oh God, yeah, I got that investigation happening. This is horrible. What am I going to do? And you have to, you know, walk on eggshells all over again, which is not good for healing.
Right.
But 2 times might not be enough. It depends on whether the police were involved, etc.
Makes sense. Okay. Julia Richardson says hello from St. Louis. Hey neighbor, how you doing? And we have the same lady with the same line of questioning says, how can I show the judge that the narcissist will make up charges and I'm found not guilty of anything? He will do anything to keep me from the child. I think, did you kind of already cover some of that?
I sort of did address it. You're going to want to look for those letters of unsubstantiation. I just saw one come across my desk yesterday for one of my cases, and it said letter of unsubstantiation. Also, in my state, at least you can go on CPS's website and print out a request to get your CPS records. Get the records. And if you do go to court and hire an attorney, ask for the attorney to ask the judge to order those records, you know, and to have them reviewed. We call it an in-camera inspection. So normally they will have that upstairs in chambers, and the attorneys can make an appointment to go and to read those reports and find out what's in there, and then comment to the judge, hey, look, on such and such date, he said this, and it's completely false because X, Y, and Z.
Excellent. Yeah, very good. Thank you. This is an interesting question. First of all, hello, Jillian X-Town from Branson Mo. What up, neighbor? Okay. We have Renee Goodell wants to know, and this is actually, I don't even know, but are there resources for people who don't have attorneys? Because apparently a lot of people in SPAN are saying, I'm female, I have no, and I guess it could be a male as well, depending on the circumstances. But in this case, she's saying women are now penniless and can't afford a lawyer, and from SPAN's people talking about that a lot. And right after that, Nargis says basically she herself was also penniless, and now the ex got control of everything. Is there something they can do if they have no ability to pay? Do you know?
It's so terrible, Angie, and it does happen. And yes, there should be resources available. In Nevada, there are a number of resources available. bottom line, if you have to go forward and represent yourself, that can be done too. And the little guide that I sent to Melina this morning, I had sent one before, but it had a bunch of errors in it. And, as you can imagine, I'm working full time and then, trying to write stuff at night. And you feel me.
Yes, I do.
But anyway, it's like 40 pages and there's a few blanks that you can write in. But, I would say start with the court system. Find out if they have a self-help center. Our self-help center has what's called Ask an Attorney, where you can go with your papers and ask questions. Also, check with your local and state bar associations. Find out, is there some kind of a sliding scale fee or pro bono program that they can refer you to? Is there a legal aid society in your area? Check with your battered persons shelter. Find out if they have legal resources available. Do they have domestic violence advocates that can go to court with you? Do they know people that can do sliding scale? Is there a program in your community that offers legal education for divorcing parents or parents in custody battles? There may be a number of resources that you don't know about. So find out what your options are and get empowered, because chances are, even if you have to litigate your case by yourself, that there may be some resources available that you can get education and put your cases together. And some litigants do better even than attorneys do, because they're so organized and they just know what's appropriate to present to the judge. So Angie, if you make that little guide available, it's got a number of things in there that people can consider for legal resources.
And I definitely will. And we also have a list of resources at queenbeing.com if you want to check that out as well.
Yes.
And this guide will be made available to everybody because I think this is really important. So everybody who's signed up for Life Makeover Summit. Yeah. Okay. Julia Richardson wants to know, can I divorce my narcissist mother? I mean, you can go no contact. I don't know if there's any legal.
Well, so it depends upon what we mean by divorce. I get it. And maybe look into obtaining a restraining order against her. If you haven't lived with her, you might not be able to do it in family court. You might have to go to civil court, but by all means, see if you can get some kind of a no contact order from her, because it sounds like, she is just causing a lot of problems. So figure out what the problems are and, how do you proceed? Can you do it in family court, or are they all handled in family court, or are some of them handled maybe in your regional justice center, the district court? Figure it out. Sometimes you can even pull up those forms online and look and see what they are requesting and attach your evidence and go for it. The worst that you can get is a denial.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And she might not like being smeared. That might be enough to keep her away.
True that. Yeah, absolutely. Good stuff. Thank you. Carlita Vega wants to know, hi, Jillian, she says, and just so y'all know, Carlita will be here later today. She says, if you file a complaint, and she's also one of our co-authors, Jillian, on our most recent book. Yes, I guess you already knew that. She says, if you file a complaint against the judge, how are you protected against retaliation from the same judge? Interesting.
This one is so difficult. And I almost always advise my clients, and realize this is not legal advice, but I don't even know if I would go there. Because usually what happens in our jurisdiction, if you say that a judge should be disqualified, all that judge has to do is file an affidavit saying, of course I'm not biased, blah, 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 blah. There you go with your blah, blahs, and you're going to go back to court against that same judge. And, I would like to think that every judge has the capacity to set bias aside, and true, they might, because they know that they're open to appeals filed by people. But why even risk it? I mean, figure out what your battles are and choose them wisely.
Yeah, agreed. Very good. Thank you. Okay, let's see here. The GSX girl, who was the one that was asking about parental alienation and stuff like that, she says, great advice. I also gave I gave my ex also everything just to get rid of his ass. You can always rebuild, pick your battles. I agree with that. Yeah, arguing over.
It's, and I know you agree because that just sounds like an Angie premise, just if there's, you got to figure out if there's not a whole lot and you're willing to let it go, dump that crap and move on with your life.
Yes, because stuff is just stuff. People are important, individuals are important, but stuff is just stuff, and then
Right.
you can't take it with you anyway. You know what I'm saying? So like, and then she says arguing over every little thing ain't worth the time to resolve a
Yes.
divorce. I agree,
Yep.
100%.
Dump it, move on. The energy that you expend sometimes fighting for these things could be better spent to moving on with your life.
Yes.
And that is the art of queen being, in my opinion.
Sing it, sister. I love it. Okay. Yes. Okay. All right, moving right along. Malta, I always appreciate you. Thank you for handling Trolley Trollerson over there.
Yes.
Jillian Xtown wants to know if you're dealing with an ex, and she was here the other day asking this question. I asked her to come back today and ask you, so hopefully this will help. What if you're dealing with an ex-Navy? Oh, she asked this one to David, and well, maybe you can help. I don't really know. David, I think, gave a little bit of an answer, but what if you're dealing with an ex-Navy SEAL sniper who is protected by law and all of his friends are law enforcement? He smeared her as crazy. He's poisoned her tomato plants and her yard with a dog. I guess the dog in the yard. And she's in Branson, Mo, and she can't move. Any ideas? Anything she can
If possible, I would move to a gated community. If not, and even if I did move to a gated community, I probably would invest in at least a couple of video cameras to record the angles of my yard, and to catch this guy. Boy, if you could catch him and expose him, that it would be huge. But yeah, for your own safety, I'm so sorry about that. I worry sometimes because I don't live in the best of neighborhoods and I don't let my dogs out that frequently. Most of the time they're in the house with me unless they have to go potty. I rarely leave them outside because you don't know what's going to happen.
That's right. Yeah. And I think that's I like the camera idea. And I think that, even if it just forces him to stop doing that, that's enough, because obviously you would like to punish someone, but if they stop doing it, then the problem is solved. So if he's aware of cameras and doesn't do things because of the cameras,
that's perfect. There's even fake cameras if you're broke.
Yeah.
You can get fake cameras.
There you
Although
go.
he's Navy SEAL, he's probably smart enough to figure it out, but.
Right. But he'd have to get close enough to maybe, I don't know. All right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if you do, I'll tell you something. If you do cameras, make sure that you feed them somewhere. So like have them upload as they go to the cloud or something. So this way, if he rips the camera off the wall, you still have the footage.
Yes.
Something to think about.
Smart.
Okay. Yeah. I don't think that expensive. Before I moved here into this home, we lived in an older neighborhood with smaller homes in it. And so what I'm saying is it was not a wealthy neighborhood at all. And this, not that this one's like super, anyway, this particular neighbor of mine had cameras and had them fed into his whatever it was, and he was able to always roll back the footage and see stuff when stuff would happen. So I would just, from me to you, I'd suggest that as well. And that was in Missouri, and I know it was legal because the police would ask him for the footage if anything weird happened around there. So yeah, okay. And he was just a person, just a resident, not like a business owner or anything. Okay. Blah, blah, blah. All right. Freedom Lee is in the house. Hey, Freedom Lee, how you doing? She says, good morning, Angie and Survivor family. Her ex-narcissist took so much money in the divorce and is now dragging his feet on splitting the pension almost a year now. Any thoughts?
Of course.
Yeah. Typical. Yeah. Yep.
Take him back on a motion for contempt and ask for, say that he's been unjustly enriched by, hanging on to this money or, the problems that he's caused, and take him back, drag his butt back for contempt, get a specific order from the judge that says this has to be done by such and such date. Is there another attorney involved that's going to write up an order to divide that retirement? Get your money, and remove for fees. My first response in Nevada would be to write a letter or have my attorney write a letter to their attorney or to him saying, look, if this isn't done by such and such date, we're going back to court to request an order to compel you to do this. And we will be requesting fees.
Excellent. Yep. Yep. Absolutely. Sorry, I forgot it was on camera that time. Doesn't Shell Soul wants to know, don't the courts see through the narc's BS? Why are they allowed to waste time and money? I think that we all have legal rights, whether we're a narcissist or not. What do you think?
Yeah, of course we do. And our judges are pretty savvy, but I guess what I'm sensing underneath all of that is that her narcissist may be one of these smooth, charming types that is higher level functioning. That, and it's really hard to take down those types of narcissists. Just document everything, and when they're nasty, when they do, oh, I forgot what you said, the silent whistle.
Dog whistle,
when they do that, don't give in, just gray rock. We have some fantastic videos on gray rock on Queen Bean.
Thank you. That's true. And, I'll tell you something that David said yesterday, and Jillian, maybe you can throw in your opinion on this. He said, even if you're in a state where you're required to tell someone you're recording them legally, if you hold up your phone and you say, I'm recording you, that is all you need to do. As long as you record yourself saying, I'm recording this. And then he said that would be legal. Is that correct?
It depends upon your jurisdiction. Probably in Nevada, it would. You're going to want to look as to whether or not there is a reasonable expectation of privacy. If it's done, like if you're in the middle of the living room and it's done person to person and you hold up your phone and you say, I'm recording you, chances are that the judge is going to look at that and say, okay, well, they knew that they were being recorded. If it's a phone conversation and you say, I'm recording you, that might be a little different depending upon the laws of your jurisdiction. You might not be able to do that. You might have to get their permission first.
Okay.
If it's voicemail, of course they know they're being recorded. I love voicemail messages. They can be saved, they can be transcribed, and they can be attached as exhibits.
Excellent point. Hear that, everybody? Voicemail messages, thumbs up. Same with text messages, yeah? And emails?
Yes. Oh, yeah, they know they're sending it.
Yeah, and they can prove the path and everything if they need to. So, yeah, absolutely. I actually had a client who she was a large financial company VP, and she was harassed at work by one y'all have heard of. She was harassed at work by her boyfriend and his mother, get this, happened to be her boss. And the boyfriend worked for the company too. And it was terrible. And bottom line, she kept all the text messages and all the threats. And she happened to be able to get a hold of some office footage where the mother actually literally enabled the boyfriend after the breakup to sort of confront her. And all of this stuff happened. And anyway, those people don't work for that place anymore. And it was
good for her. Yay.
Yes. And we got some help from, I may have asked you for some help, advice on that too, but I had Amy Sprigg, one of our admins, came in to actually join me for a portion of the call because she was an HR expert, to help her understand what to do next. So it worked out great. Yeah. Yes, absolutely. Okay. Colleen Brosnan. Hey, girl. Hey, how you doing? She is here today. She says, hello, good morning. Muffy Lewandowski in the house says, good morning. I think I might have already missed that. Okay. GSX Girl says, basically, when you deal with a narcissist, they want it all and they want to hurt you. Screw it either way. Get what you can and run. Yep. Sure enough.
Yes. Yeah. Janelle, she's smart.
Yeah. Janelle Hopper says, good tips. Thank you, Janelle. Thank you, Jillian. Nargis says, but before leaving, our house was put for foreclosure. Oh my. You think being the mom of his kids and my kids, I would have no place to leave. If he did I'd have no place to live. He'd let us stay in the house. Nope, he gave it away. Typical. Yeah.
Oh, sure. And that's really a slight against the children, so, I mean, it's, that's terrible.
Yep. Absolutely. All right, let's see here. We're moving through here. Here's one for you. Bonnie, she says, and we're going to answer about 2 more questions, and then we're going to have to wrap up because I have another session coming at noon. But Jillian, if you would consider it, I would love to have you on my channel for a regular interview sometime.
That would be fantastic.
Okay, great.
I would love to. I
Excellent.
love everybody. I love Span. You guys have been a huge part of my recovery.
Oh, that's
Absolutely.
excellent. Excellent. Okay, great. So we'll get that scheduled with Melina and we'll do it a live interview.
Perfect.
Great. That way people can just, we can just answer all their questions, or you can just answer questions because there's just, obviously everybody has questions. All right. Let's see here. Bonnie says, I'm a stay-at-home mom, 31-year marriage, three grown kids in the house. Wait, no, three grown kids. House names, finances joint. What happens to salary? What happens to pension, etc.? Social Security. She's disabled. Will I have no income at all if I divorce? This is an excellent question. Everybody listen up.
And this question really tugs on my heartstrings because it tells me right now this person is not coming from a place of empowerment,
Mhm.
which is, my first piece of advice would be to hang around. My second suggestions or thoughts, and not legal advice, you know, is your disability documented? Are you getting anything from Social Security that could affect are you in an equitable distribution state? If so, maybe it might even be even more in your favor because you're disabled at this point, or is it community property? And what is the length of marriage? And how were these assets acquired? If it was retirement, was it built up during the course of the marriage? Chances are that that might be a huge resource that you don't even know about. I'm sorry about the disability. That's hard because it tells me you might not have money to consult with an attorney, but I definitely would call the court and find out if there's anybody that can give you a free or a low cost consultation. I would just run through the phone book or whatever directory you're using, whether it's online or whatever, and find out, are there some attorneys that will give you a free consultation and give you an idea about what your rights are in your state?
Mhm.
And have some basic information handy. If you are getting periodic statements from the retirement company, scan one of them, so that you know what the plan is, where it's lodged, who the administrator is. Write out when you were married, write out what was happening. Was he already building this retirement asset, or did it start after the marriage? If it started after marriage and you're in a community property state, the court, more likely than not, is going to divide that in half unless you can show that you have a higher need and ask the court to attach some of that for your own spousal support. In certain circumstances, you can do that, and the court may give you an even greater portion of the award. If it's military retirement, sometimes you can get some sort of an extra allotment or something. Find out what your rights are, because right now he's holding all the keys, and that's wrong. You probably have resources and power that you don't know about. So get educated and find out what your options are so that you're coming from a position of power,
Yep. 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 Absolutely. Okay. Last question, and then we're wrapping up because I have to powder my nose between calls. Okay. The question is, my husband refuses to bring home pay stubs. He keeps them in his desk at work. He cashes them at a bank that is not ours together. But this is somebody who has joint everything else. And so I feel like this is financial abuse in some ways, but is there a legal thing with this?
It is. And, it's just, this is so classically narcissistic.
Mhm.
So in my opinion, it is financial abuse. And, if you don't have an open case, you're not going to be able to subpoena. But, if you realize that you can subpoena pay records. I have subpoenaed, like there was the company ADP and or ATP, and they are one of the companies that do payroll. And I just subpoenaed them directly and got the pay records, and we were able to show this guy's pay and the number of hours that he was working, because he claimed that he had joint physical custody of the kids. But he didn't. And, how could he with all the hours that he's working? So yeah, we subpoenaed those records right up. And,
Nice.
the magic power of paper, right?
Indeed. Yes, indeed. All right. Good stuff. Good stuff. Okay. You guys, I know you have a lot more questions. So, a couple of things. Jillian is a very busy woman, so I can't guess that she would be available for any sort of excerpt, but she will be here for another interview in the near future, or a live Q&A with
Yes.
just here on this channel. So stay tuned for that. We will, I'll let you know when that's going to be. It won't be this week because I'm really busy this week. But Jillian, if you would touch base with Melina and schedule that at your convenience, I would really
I sure
appreciate it.
will.
Thank
Yes.
you. And stay tuned for the, we will have Jillian's made us some amazing reference material that I'm going to give to you guys, even if you aren't signed up for the all access pass, because I think this is important stuff that everybody needs.
Feel
And
free.
yes. And the other thing is, I'll be back here in about 15 minutes with Dad Surviving Divorce, so stay tuned for that. Jillian, again, thank you so much. People, you can check her out at tindalllaw.com if you want to know more about Jillian. Jillian, anything else? Last words? Anything else you want to say?
Love you all. Mwah!
Love you too. Thank you for being here. We'll see you guys in 15 minutes. Jillian, again, love you, love you, love you. Thank you so much. Grateful for you. Thank you.
Thank you, Angie. You too.
My pleasure. Talk soon.
Bye-bye.
All right. Bye-bye. How do I do this? I always forget how to end the meeting. Here we go. Okay, now I'm doing it. Okay. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye.